Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 4 Episodes 8 and 9, Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. Okay, this two-parter is absolutely fantastic. Oh, this... Okay, where to begin? Okay, well, the Doctor and Donna receive a message from somebody, I will reveal who soon, to go to the library, which is a whole planet made of an actual library, but it's been abandoned for about 100 years. So they've gone to investigate, and they soon discover Vashta Nerada, which lives in the dark and feeds off many things. Earth has it, but it only kills off roadkill, apparently. And the Doctor and Donna meet Professor River Song, who sent the message, and her team of archaeologists funded by a Mr. Lux, played by Steve Pemberton, I think, in this story. Yeah, so that means all of the League of Gentlemen actors have appeared in Doctor Who at some point. I think fans of League of Gentlemen will be glad to know about that, with Mark Gatiss frequently making appearances in Doctor Who, starting with the Lazarus Experiment, and Reese Smith will appear in Sleep No More, as well as an adventure in space and time. Anyway, so Professor Song and her group have come to the library to investigate what happened 100 years earlier, and she's called for the Doctor to come and help because she and the Doctor are, as we're probably all aware by this point, at the time of this review coming out in 2020, we know of River Song and the Doctor's history together. However, when this story was first broadcast, this was the first time the Doctor had met her, apart from when Big Finish decides that she should meet the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Doctors. But yeah, a bit strange, but I suppose they would apparently they could erase their memories, or River Song could erase their memories of past meetings before the 10th Doctor, for some reason, and she'd only meet the 11th Doctor without erasing his memories, apart from this case with 10, and one case with 12 later down the line. And maybe any other case where the Doctor knows of her post-11. Anyway, but River Song is a old friend of the Doctor, to put it mildly, but in this story, she certainly knows the Doctor very well, but he doesn't know her yet. As she says, he's too young, he hasn't met her yet. And I will admit this, that throughout the story, it does get a little repetitive and a bit, could get a bit grating for some people, the fact that they keep repeating this stuff without actually revealing that much about their relationship this early yet. But it does build a good mystery between the two of them, and one that many people would have wanted to have seen resolved. And we did get that eventually, but more on that in later episodes. But yeah, it's still pretty good setup there. I also have to say that Silence in the Library is a great setup episode. The building and suspense and tension throughout the episode is amazing as the Doctor and Donna are just investigating, and then they're being chased by Vashta Nerada, and it just works really well and amps up the fear factor and the tension. It's also quite fun to see that the story seems to be taking place from the imagination of a little girl. However, it seems that the library is in fact real, and these little dreams of a normal life are not. So this is an interesting story to go down with this little girl, and Dr. Moon, played by Colin Salmon from the Pierce Brosnan James Bond films, well, not GoldenEye, but the other three. And he does a great job as our guest character in this story. He's really great. Eventually, Vashta Nerada start picking off the crew one by one, starting with Miss Evangelista, played by Tallulah Riley, who, fun fact, is in the St. Trinian's films, which Jodie Whittaker guest starred in as a minor character in. She gets picked off first, and then when she accidentally goes into a shadow, I guess. Then some of the other crew members start being they're marked as prey by having a second shadow, and then the Vashta Nerada eat them and take over their bodies to reanimate and chase the others down. There's two Daves, Proper Dave and Other Dave. Proper Dave goes first, then Other Dave, and there's also Anita. And then that's the crew, and all of our supporting characters are likable and portrayed really well. So we feel for them when they go. Other days does come kind of a bit randomly, a bit out of the blues, a bit surprising, but it sort of works pretty well. And it's a great way for the Doctor to escape them when he just goes down the trapdoor, but it turns out then he's hanging on to the bottom underneath, and they think he's fallen all the way down. That's a really great bit. Meanwhile, he tries to get Donna teleported into the TARDIS, and then she's captured by the system, which saves her to the computer. As they work out later on, the computer saved all the people when the Shadows, the Vashta Nerada, came along, and it saved them to the computer and had to build imaginary worlds for them to live, dreamlike worlds for them to live out their lives, because it couldn't put them anywhere due to the Vashta Nerada's presence. And they're here because their forests have been turned into the books. So Donna's trapped in her own little dreamlike world throughout the second half of the story in Forest of the Dead. And this Miss Evangelista, who sort of had her consciousness updated, but she was eaten by the Vashta Nerada, so they got her a bit wrong rather than being saved. So she tries to show Donna the truth about the place, naturally. And throughout the rest of the second episode, the rest of the surviving members of the expedition crew have to make their way down to the central computer, where the secrets of what is revealed, as it turns out that Cow, and that name is plastered throughout the story, throughout episodes 8 and 9, what is Cow, and it turns out that it's a name, Charlotte Abigail Lux, who is the little girl, and turns out that she was placed in the computer so that she could live forever, as she was dying at a young age. And it turns out Mr. Lux is, I think he's her nephew, so he's sort of her nephew, I guess. And the family have to care for her and the planet, and make sure she's okay, and she can now experience a normal life, with books which she loved to read. All the Doctor would like her. However, as we already established, the Vashta Nerada arrived, and they've now they're now on hunt for humans. So the Doctor has to make some sort of a deal with them in order for them to coexist with the humans without eating them, especially as he's found it difficult to make that offer once they eat Anita. Though obviously the Vashta Nerada are obviously aware of the Doctor, as once they look him up, they decide to give him a chance. And it's River Song in the end who decides to sacrifice herself to save the planet, because the Doctor's plan is that he would give part of his space, mind space, for the to help the computer, and therefore everyone can come back. So River Song decides to do it herself so that the Doctor wouldn't die and that they get to experience their future together. And whilst River Song succeeds, she does die in the process. And that shot of David Tennant looking on sad, apparently IGN called this the most emotional moment of the season, more emotional moments than any in the series. I don't know if I would say it's the most emotional scene of the series, but it's certainly a very strong emotional moment. That shot of David Tennant just looking there, sad. That was a great. That was a brilliant bit, and worked really well in the context of the episode. And then after reuniting with Donna, he then realizes that he saved River, his future selves saved River with the sonic screwdriver, and he takes it down to put into the computers so that River can continue to live in the computer along with the other members of the crew who died. Mr. Lux is the only one who didn't die. And so the story does sort of end happily, and sort of assumes that, like with the Doctor Dances, nobody dies this time. Everybody lives this time around. And that's a really great ending to this story. So, Science in the Library, Forest of the Dead. Not only is the story brilliant, but it's got some great dialogue in there throughout the story. Yeah, some of the bits about the whole mystery setup thing could get a bit grating for some people. The more it goes on, there is quite a bit of it, but it's still it's still an efficiently set up mystery for what's to come later down the line, and it's just a really fun adventure, and some outstanding performances. I have to eat my words from Human Nature and the Family of Blood. This is David Tennant's best performance. He is just on flying form in this episode, especially at the end of episode 9 when he's racing to save River Song. Masterful acting. He is just on top form. He is just outstanding, and he continues to be in the next episode as well. Catherine Tate is also outstanding in possibly her best performance so far as Donna, certainly in Forest of the Dead at least. Alex Kingston does a great job in her first appearance as River Song, and the other supporting characters are also amazing, especially Colin Salmon. And just brings this story to life alongside amazing sets. They do an outstanding job in creating this a beautiful world, and the CGI also looks absolutely brilliant as well. A brilliant crafted story and some beautiful music by Murray Gold. I haven't been praising him enough in recently. Murray Gold does some amazing music this series, and this story is certainly proof. I don't really have any negatives for this story. It's just so good. Great acting, great performance, great script, both story and dialogue. Great sets, great music, great CGI, just an outright fantastic execution. And the tension is great, the horror is great, the villains are pretty good, actually. I mean, we don't get a huge amount of backstory about the Vashtorada, but for this story, they work really well. And it just builds up a brilliant, brilliant world building and multiple world building, because you've got the dream world inside the computer, and it's just amazing and just absolutely brilliant. And yeah, also spoilers gets introduced in this story. The whole spoiler stuff again, that could be a bit grating for some people, even in this story, without future context. But it's still pretty good. Time Can Be Rewritten is also sort of introduced here as well, and along with Fixed Points, that's going to be from Fires of Pompeii. That's going to play out a bit more in the future. Overall, Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead is just perfect, actually. This is perfect Doctor Who. Well, it's perfect new series Doctor Who. I can't really explain what it is, but it just succeeds on all fronts. And apart from maybe a few things that could get a little bit grating, even to those who have no context of what's coming up later on, and especially to those who do, but well, with the whole mystery stuff and everything and spoilers, but ignoring what we all know is coming up, just putting our mindsets in those of 2008, it still works, and it is an outstanding story. So I'm going to be giving Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead a 10 out of 10. Yeah, this is a fantastic story. I thought everything went absolutely right with it. A-star game for everybody. Best performances from David Tennant and Catherine Tate so far. Outstanding guest cast. Brilliant supporting characters they're playing. And brilliant script. Brilliant dialogue. Brilliant execution with the sets and visual effects. Brilliant direction. Brilliant cinematography. No shitty witty panny transitions. This must be the first story in a while to not have that. It's just absolutely brilliant, absolutely breathtaking, and just masterfully done. This is just an amazing story, and it's probably my favourite of Series 4, as I may or may not have mentioned already. We will finalise that decision when we get to the ranking, depending on what the rest of the series is like. But yeah, this story is just an absolute masterpiece, and I frickin' love it. And around the time of Silence in the Library's airing, Stephen Moffat was apparently announced to be taking over from Russell T Davies, or at least to be his successor. And I think, considering what fans would have thought back then in 2008, in 2020, of Reflection, it seems like the complete opposite to what fans in 2008 would have been thinking. But fans in 2008, after these two episodes would have aired at least, would be very excited for that, as at that time, they considered him the best person for the job. Yeah, like I said, on reflection, now, they might eat their words. But back in 2008, many people considered Moffat to be the best choice to take over from Russell T Davies. And they got their wish. I suppose it's a case of be careful what you wish for, but to be honest, look at it from their point of view. Stephen Moffat has written 4 stories now in the Russell T Davies era that pretty much more or less cemented that position. Because he wrote Empty Child and Nocturne Dances, which is amazing. Gun in the Fireplace, which is amazing. Blink is outstanding. one of the most popular stories of all time and my personal favourites of the Tennant era. And now we've got this, Science in the Library Forest of the Dead. Not to mention 2 fun charity specials with The Curse of the Fatal Death and Time Crash. There was a reason why fans wanted him to become the showrunner for the following series. And like I said, despite what we think of him now, there was no denying back in 2008, he was the most popular choice. And I think many fans were happy to hear that he had been hired to take over from Russell T Davies once he departed, especially after these 2 episodes. So we'll see how he handles Doctor Who next series when he takes over. Personally, I think he has 5 hit out of the park stories in a row. Empty Child Doctor Dances, Gun in the Fireplace, Blink, Science in the Library Forest of the Dead, and his first episode of Showrunner, which is the masterpiece known only as The 11th Hour. So, yep. Moffat is taking over next series, and we'll see how that goes down. But it's not just Stephen Moffat who can prove that he can write brilliant episodes, as now we're on the home stretch of Series 4. All of these final 4 episodes are written by Russell T Davies, and the following 5 episodes are either written or co-written by Russell T Davies. And certainly with the next episode, he can prove himself to be an amazing writer just as much as Moffat can. And I'll see you guys next time for that story, which is Midnight. And we are now on the home stretch for Series 4. P.S. I'd like to apologise for the sounds that you may or may not have heard throughout the last piece of this review. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for Midnight. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.